At Construction Skills Queensland, we collect a wide array of information about our industry, conducting research and analysis into the future skills needs of the sector. As you may know, we recently launched Console, a series of custom-built instruments designed to provide you with actionable workforce intelligence by providing you with specific answers to questions about construction skills development. Console is designed to deliver added value to you, the industry, by sharing the research and information we collect and undertake as part of our responsibility for planning and investing in the skills needs of industry. Together with our other research initiatives, our goal is not only to ensure a solid evidence-based approach to skills investment for your training fund, but to also share these important insights with you, your enterprise and your workforce.
Queensland remains the patchwork economy, with clear differences in economic activity across the state. Nowhere is this more evident than the Queensland construction industry, where activity levels vary significantly from region to region. This is what we call a hotspot map of the value of building approvals for the year ending April 2013. Hotspot is one of the research tools available to industry in our new Console publication, available on our website. The hotter the area, the higher the total value of approvals in that area. Now, because this is building approvals, it applies to residential and commercial construction only, which excludes the booming engineering sector. But there's clearly a relationship between the two. Each region is now shaped by local factors, and the most prominent of these at the moment is resource investment. The value of work yet to be done, that is, in the pipeline, for heavy engineering grew to a peak of almost $60 billion in 2012. Even though this peak has started to move through as work done, there is still a massive amount of work to come from an historical perspective. But this investment is highly localised, with identifiable knock-on effects. We can easily see the effect of resource investment on areas like Gladstone, Mount Isa and the Darling Downs, places where huge resource infrastructure is having collateral effects on housing activity. These different regional conditions are leading to a change in the mix of building types and activity across the state. Even within tightly linked regions like the southeast, there is significant variation. Here's a similar map to the last one, except this time it's graphing the type of work in each region with the highest value. You can see that the leading type of construction investment varies significantly from place to place, even within a major region. You can also see a pattern that mirrors the first graph. Industrial investment in the blue areas is booming around the resource investment sites. And all of this is changing over time as the forces affecting each region have changed. If we wind back the clock 2 years, we can see how the dominant type of activity has changed across Queensland, starting with the proliferation of education and social infrastructure investment, the red areas, on the back of the federal government stimulus program. Over the next 3 years, this activity shifts into resource-related investment, the blue areas, as the dominant drivers for investment shift from the stimulus package to the resources boom. Understanding this changing mix is very important to the future planning of the industry. Why? Because what we build changes what we train. Because each build type has different and unique skill needs. Here's another of our tools available to all our industry stakeholders, Blueprint. Blueprint uses quantity survey data to break down a typical build into its required worker types and their proportions. It's a powerful resource that very quickly highlights the difference in skills needs between different build types. For example, we can see that there's actually a number of important differences between traditional residential construction and large-scale industrial or commercial activity. Housing uses a lot of traditional trades, such as carpenters, plasterers and painters. By comparison, commercial industrial work, like a warehouse, uses a very different mix, with concreters, structural steel workers and plumbers. This means that as the mix of things we build changes, so does the mix of people we need to build them. And that has an effect on skilling. This is another of our Console instruments, Skills Mix, and it shows the changes in the proportion of new entrants into building and construction apprenticeships and traineeships by trade group. As the activity mix in recent years has shifted away from traditional residential work and into engineering and industrial activity, the shift in the intake of new apprentices and trainees mirrors this fact. We can see that the proportion of new intake in traditional trades has fallen over time, while the proportion in engineering and plant operation has increased. The problem is the size of the workforce in each product or sector varies significantly. Even though there was $37.9 billion of investment driving major engineering projects across the state just in the last year alone, the entire engineering and civil workforce was only 6.2% of the total construction workforce in Queensland in the May quarter. This is because the ratio of labour to materials and other costs is different from build type to build type. This means that in a multi-speed environment, there are significant challenges to balancing the scale of training required to support future workforce needs. This instrument, called Pipeline, shows the changing level of the apprenticeship and traineeship in training cohort for Queensland construction. You can clearly see that despite the high level of major project investment, this has not translated to a training demand on the same scale as the residential and commercial boom in 2007. Weaker commencements in recent years, combined with higher completions on the back of the record 2007 intake, have seen the total cohort drop consistently since the GFC. This is a real challenge for the industry, as strength begins to slowly return to the residential and commercial sectors in the coming years. And just as the construction skills needs of each sector and product are connected across the state, so too are the needs of each region. The construction industry is highly mobile and has always been. But in this era of fly-in, fly-out and drive-in, drive-out, this mobility has become far-reaching and highly reactive to local conditions. Our recent March edition of Console introduced the On-Site instrument, a major resource that uses census data to paint a picture of the mobility of the construction workforce. You can clearly see how workers move rapidly from areas of low activity to areas of increased demand, sometimes across significant distances. It's this interconnectivity during a time of substantial regional variation and volatility that makes workforce planning for the future very, very difficult. So why should we plan for the future, particularly if the headlines are right and the future is so uncertain? The CSQ Future Workforce Analysis Project helps explain why it's so important to commit to the skills needs of the future. Across Queensland, population growth is still strong, and over a longer timeline, like the next decade, it's this population growth that is more important to the prospects for construction than resource capital investment. In the southeast Queensland sector, this population growth is forecast to keep residential construction investment on a steady but overall positive trajectory. At the same time, the resource boom is having an effect, driving sustained growth over the medium term in commercial and industrial investment. In aggregate, that means the region really has only one direction it can go. But it's still going to be a competitive market. Just because construction activity will rise does not mean we will see housing price growth on the same scale as the pre-GFC era. The new economic reality is one of rising costs and strong downward price sensitivity. For the most part, the construction industry survives between the cost and the price, in the margin. So, how do you gear your business to succeed? By countering costs with improved productivity and challenging price with better value. And skills help you do both. That's why Construction Skills Queensland is here to help the entire industry to build the skills of its workforce. We make it easy for you to connect with the training capability you need to upskill your existing workforce, gain new skills for yourself, or start a career in one of the pillars of the Queensland economy. The future is looking up for Queensland construction, but we need to be competitive to be successful. At Construction Skills Queensland, we're here to help you build success.